To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Plot summary. The story is set in Maycomb, Alabama during the 1930s. Scout Finch, her brother Jem, and their friend Dill are introduced along with their mysterious neighbor, Boo Radley. Their father, Atticus Finch, is a principled lawyer. As the children grow and explore, they become intrigued by Boo Radley and begin to learn about their community's racial prejudices. Atticus is appointed to defend Tom Robinson, a black man accused of raping a white woman, Mayella Ewell. The courtroom trial where Atticus presents evidence proving Tom's innocence. But despite this, Tom is convicted due to racial biases. Tom Robinson attempts to escape prison but is killed. The town's tensions rise, and Bob Ewell, angry at being exposed, threatens Atticus and the children. On Halloween, Bob Ewell attacks Scout and Jem, but is stopped by Boo Radley, who rescues them and kills Bob in the process. The community recognizes Boo's kindness, and Scout gains maturity and understanding. Chapter 1. When my brother Jem was nearly 13, he broke his arm badly at the elbow. Despite the injury leaving his left arm shorter and causing his hand to rest awkwardly, he wasn't bothered as long as he could still play football. Looking back, Jem believed the trouble started long before the Owl's involvement. It began the summer Dill arrived, bringing with him the idea to coax Boo Radley out. Our family history traces back to Simon Finch, a stingy but pious fur trapper from Cornwall, who fled religious persecution and settled near the Alabama River, establishing a self-sufficient homestead called Finch's Landing. Life there revolved around cotton, surviving on the land despite the hardships following the Civil War. Maycomb, the slow, tired town where Atticus, Jem, and I live, reflected a place where people moved slowly and lived simply. Atticus Finch, our father, practiced law here with deep connections to nearly every family. Our cook, Calpurnia, kept us in line, especially me, when Jen would sometimes retreat to his own world, especially after our mother died and I was too young to remember her. That summer, when Dill came to stay with his aunt, Miss Rachel, his curiosity and imagination breathed life into our days. Dill, despite his small size and strange white hair, was a pocket Merlin filled with fantastic ideas. His fascination with the Radley place, a dark, dilapidated house inhabited by the mysterious and reclusive Boo Radley, dragged us into shared excitement and fear. The Radley house stood on a curve, shadowed by oak trees and surrounded by rumors of Boo's ghost-like presence. Stories of his strange behavior, his violent act against his father, and his subsequent confinement painted him a figure both feared and pitied by the town. Determined to confront this mystery, Dill urged Jem to dare step past the gate. After much hesitation, and with the promise that Dill and I, Scout, would back him up, Jem boldly touched the side of the Radley house and rushed back, as if sensing something unseen watching us. That fleeting movement of a shutter sparked a mix of fear and wonder in our hearts, pulling us deeper into the enigma that was Boo Radley. Chapter 2. Dill left in September, and though I missed him, school was about to start, which I looked forward to eagerly. Jem took me to my first day, warning me not to bother him during school hours or embarrass him with my childish ways. School was different. Miss Caroline Fisher, our young teacher from North Alabama, struggled to understand our ways. When she discovered I could already read, she told me to stop learning at home, which confused me, since Atticus simply read to me at night. Miss Caroline's teaching methods, including the Dewey Decimal System, felt strange to us, and I quickly grew bored. During lunch, she tried to help Walter Cunningham, who had no lunch, but didn't understand his pride in not accepting charity. I explained to her that the Cunninghams paid their debts in their own way since they had the money. Miss Caroline, frustrated, punished me for speaking out, making me stand in the corner. Despite her impatience, Miss Caroline's struggles showed us she was new and overwhelmed. For us, school was a strange, confusing place where even simple things like lunch and learning came with difficulties tied to the harsh realities of life in Maycomb. Chapter 3. I caught Walter Cunningham in the schoolyard, but Jem stopped me from roughing him, since Walter was almost as old as Jem. Jem invited Walter to our house for dinner, and Walter hesitated, but eventually went with us. At our home, Walter and Atticus discussed farming, while Walter poured syrup all over his meal, much to my surprise. Calpurnius scolded me for judging Walter's eating habits and reminding me to treat guests with respect, even if they come from different backgrounds. Back to school, Miss Caroline panicked when a cootie crawled out of Burris Ewell's hair. Burris was filthy and rude, and despite warnings, refused to wash and behaved badly, showing why the Owls were seen as an unruly family. Miss Caroline was upset, but the class comforted her. After the long day, I told Atticus I didn't want to go back to school because Miss Caroline said he was teaching me wrong. Atticus taught me a valuable lesson. To understand people, I must consider things from their point of view and be patient with those who are new to our ways. He explained the Owls were a difficult family, often allowed to break rules because of their circumstances, but I must obey the law and go to school. We agreed that if I keep going to school, we could continue reading together at home as a compromise. Atticus warned me not to mention this to Miss Caroline, fearing it would cause trouble. Jem spent hours in the treehouse, inspired by a story about a man sitting on a flagpole, while I helped keeping him supplied. That day was a mix of challenges, lessons, and moments of care within our family and community. Chapter 4. The rest of my school days weren't much better than the first, just a lot of boring projects and little real learning. Jem managed school his own way, and Atticus and my uncle, who were homeschooled, seemed to know everything. I learned what I could from books and magazines, but I couldn't shake the feeling that school was cheating me out of something important. One day, while running past the Radley place after school, I spotted some tinfoil stuck in a knothole of a tree and found 2 pieces of chewing gum. Jem warned me not to touch anything near the Radley house, but I chewed it cautiously. Summer came, bringing Dill back to town, and we invented a game about the Radleys. Jem was Boo, Dill was Mr. Radley, and I was Mrs. Radley, though I wasn't too keen on the part. Our play was filled with gossip and scary stories about the Radley family, even after Atticus found out and warned us. We kept playing, drawn to the mystery. One day, when I rolled the tire into the Radley yard, I heard a soft laugh from inside the house. It was so unexpected that it shook me to the core and made the whole mystery feel even more real. Chapter 5. My nagging finally got Jem to slow down our game, though we argued that since Atticus hadn't forbidden it, we could keep playing, even planning to change the character names if needed. Dill, who has asked me to marry him, then quickly forgot, was more of a nuisance, hanging on to Jem and leaving me out of their schemes. To avoid their antics, I spent many summer evenings sitting with Miss Maudie Atkinson on her porch. Miss Maudie was kind and down to earth, loved her garden fiercely, and baked the best cakes in the neighborhood. She told me that Boo Radley, Arthur, as she called him, was still alive, although the neighborhood rumors painted him as a ghostly figure. She explained that some people, like the foot-washing Baptist, condemned anything that brought pleasure, which was why Boo might stay hidden. Despite the stories, Miss Maudie defended Boo's character, recounting kind encounters from his youth. One day, Jem and Dill planned to send a note to Boo Radley, attaching it to a fishing pole and slipping it through a loose shutter. I followed hesitantly, watching as Jem struggled to make the note stay. But before we could succeed, Dill rang my mother's silver dinner bell loudly, attracting Atticus's attention. He caught us and sternly warned us to stop bothering Mr. Radley, reminding us to respect his privacy and to treat others as we wished to be treated. Jem grumbled that he wasn't sure he wanted to be a lawyer anymore, having realized he'd been outwitted by his father's firm words. Chapter 6. It was Dill's last night in Maycomb, and Jem got permission from Atticus to say good-bye by the fish-pool. That night, under a gigantic moon, we planned a risky mission to peek inside the Radley house. Jem told me and Dill that it was safer to do it under the cover of darkness, since Atticus wouldn't hear us and we'd be less visible. We sneaked through the back gate and tried to look inside through a loose shutter. Jem helped Dill climb up to the window, but all we saw were curtains and a faint distant light. The tension grew when Jem saw a shadow, like a man with a hat, moving across the porch. We froze, then fled as the shadow approached. Suddenly, a shotgun blast shattered the night, and we scrambled to safety. Jem got stuck trying to escape through the fence and had to kick off his pants to get free. Back home, Atticus questioned Jem about his missing pants, and Dill spun a wild story about winning them in a game of strip poker. That night, I lay awake, imagining Boo Radley lurking everywhere, every sound magnified into a threat. When Jem decided he had to go back and retrieve his pants to avoid getting into trouble, I tried to stop him out of fear for his safety. Despite my pleas, Jem was determined. He left quietly, moving like a ghost through the dark. I waited, anxious, until he returned wearing his pants and collapsed on his cot, trembling. The night's events marked a shift between Jem and me. I couldn't fully understand his resolve, but it was clear he was growing up beyond my reach. Chapter 7. Jem was moody and quiet for a week after that night at the Radley place. I tried to understand him, knowing I'd never have dared to do what he did. School started again. still dull and frustrating, but I appreciated walking home with Jem in the afternoons. One day, Jem shared a secret. He went back for his pants. They were folded neatly and sewn up, like someone was expecting him. It felt as if someone could read his mind. We found a ball of gray twine in a tree knot hole near school, and after debating, we took it, considering anything found there as ours. More treasures came: soap carvings resembling us, a package of gum, a spelling medal, and a pocket watch with a knife. Jem wanted to thank the mysterious gift giver with a letter, but he couldn't explain the strange feelings he had about it all. Then one morning we found the knot hole filled with cement. Jem was upset, but tried to stay composed. When we asked Mr. Nathan Radley, he said that the tree was dying and needed plugging. Jem later confided that the tree looked healthy, and that upset him deeply. That night, Jem showed me he'd been crying quietly, his sadness profound over the loss of the secret connection to whoever was leaving the gifts. Chapter 8. That winter brought a rare cold snap and snow in Maycomb, unusual enough to prompt Mr. Avery to blame Jem and me for disrupting nature with our mischief. Mrs. Radley died, but the neighborhood barely noticed. Miss Maudie assured me Boo was still alive, debunking some of the spooky stories. The snow was light and soggy, but Jem and I eagerly piled it up in the yard to build the snowman, using dirt and sticks to shape it, and even borrowed Miss Maudie's sun hat and hedge clippers to dress it up, much to Atticus's amusement and gentle scolding. That night Miss Maudie's house caught fire. Jem and I watched with neighbors as firefighters struggled in the cold, and Minnie helped rescue furniture. At one point, Mr. Avery got stuck trying to escape the upper floor, causing a brief commotion. We stood by worried and cold until Atticus calmly managed the situation. After the fire, we found a brown blanket had been wrapped around me during the chaos. Boo Radley had quietly placed there without my noticing. Jem shared his realization with Atticus, who told us to keep it a secret and suggested I thank Boo some day. Miss Maudie was remarkably upbeat despite losing her home, joking about building a smaller house with more yard for her azaleas. She found comfort in the support of neighbors and showed a warm, resilient spirit that deeply impressed Jem and me. Despite the hardships, winter in Maycomb brought a lesson in community and kindness. Chapter 9. Things grew tense for Jem and me after Cecil Jacobs announced at school that my dad defended black people. I didn't understand it fully, so I asked Atticus. He explained he was defending Tom Robinson, a black man accused in a controversial case, and told me to hold my head high and avoid fights, even if others called me names. Atticus knew they were likely to lose, but said it was still important to try. Christmas brought mixed feelings. We visited Finch's Landing with Uncle Jack and Aunt Alexandra. Aunt Alexandra tried to make me behave like a proper lady, but I wasn't interested. Frances, my cousin, mocked Atticus and called him derogatory names, sparking fights between us. Uncle Jack scolded me for cursing, but listened when I explained the provocation. Uncle Jack was kind but firm, teaching me about right and wrong while understanding children don't always behave perfectly. When I secretly overheard Atticus and Uncle Jack discussing the trial, I realized the difficult road ahead, and how much my father was trying to protect Jem and me from the ugliness that was coming. Chapter 10. Atticus was nearly 50 and different from other dads. He didn't hunt, fish, or drink, and wore glasses because he was nearly blind in one eye. While Jem was obsessed with football, Atticus preferred reading and was quiet with his skills. When he gave Jem and me air rifles, he didn't teach us to shoot, but warned Jem to remember it was a sin to kill a mockingbird. Miss Maud explained that mockingbirds do nothing but make music for us to enjoy. One day we noticed old Tim Johnson, a dog from the neighborhood, acting strangely as if something was wrong. Calpurnia alerted Atticus and the sheriff, Mr. Tate, about the mad dog coming their way. Atticus reluctantly took the rifle, and to Jem and my amazement, shot the dog with a single, precise shot. The reason some called him One-Shot Finch. Miss Maudie complimented Atticus for his marksmanship, but explained he likely chose not to hunt because he saw shooting as a serious gift. Jem and I appreciated this new side of our father, understanding more about the quiet strength he possessed beneath his unassuming exterior. Chapter 11. Jem and I avoided Mr. DeBose's wrath as best we could, but one day Jem snapped, after she accused Atticus of lowing for N-word and insulted our family. Jem destroyed her camellia bushes, breaking my baton in the process. Atticus was disappointed, but told Jem to apologize and arranged for Jem to read to Mrs. DeBose daily as punishment. We visited her often. She was cruel and sharp-tongued, but as Jem read, her fits increased until the alarm clock allowed our release. Over time, the visits grew longer, and Mrs. DeBose's condition worsened. Eventually, she died, but Atticus explained her fits were withdrawals from the morphine addiction. She had fought a brave battle to free herself before she died. Before passing, she left Jem a single camellia flower in a candy box, a final, complicated gesture. Atticus called her the bravest person he'd ever known, defining courage as fighting a losing battle but seeing it through the end. Jem struggled with these lessons, but seemed to understand their importance. Chapter 12. Jem had grown moody and unreachable as he entered adolescence, which left me feeling lonely until Dill's summer return. But that summer, Dill didn't come, and I was miserable without him. Atticus was busy at the state legislature, and life felt weighed down by troubles far beyond Jem and me. Soon, Calpurnia invited Jem and me to attend her African American church, First Purchase, one Sunday. The church was very different, unpainted, without hymn books, and filled with a warm, earthy atmosphere. We were surprised but welcomed by the congregation, despite some initial resistance from a woman named Lula. Reverend Sykes led a spirited service, including a collection for Tom Robinson's wife, Helen, who struggled to support her family since Tom's imprisonment. Calpurnia explained that the community avoided Helen because of the accusations against Tom, a stark reminder of the prejudice and hardships facing them. This experience opened my eyes to a world beyond my own and deepened my understanding of the people around me. Chapter 13. Aunt Alexandra arrived to stay with us, bringing with her the expectations of proper family behavior and a focus on our heritage. She aimed to provide feminine influence and instill a sense of pride in our Finch lineage. Although Gemini found her presence a bit tedious, Maycomb welcomed her, and she quickly settled into the community and household routines. Aunt Alexandra was a formidable figure, firm in her beliefs about family and social standing, often commenting on the traits and reputations of Maycomb's families. She viewed fine folks as those whose families had lived in the same land for generations, which led to discussions about the town's caste system and its old intertwined families. Atticus explained to Jem and me that Aunt Alexandra wanted us to understand our place in the family and the community, urging us to behave like the gentleman and lady she believed we were raised to be. Though the conversation was difficult and made me feel isolated, Atticus reassured us it was not yet time to worry, and that he was still here with us. It was clear that Aunt Alexandra's influence had introduced a new layer of expectation and complexity in our lives. Chapter 14. Jem was going through a difficult phase, becoming moody and bossy, and I often felt left out. Dill was missing that summer, which made me miserable, but then he unexpectedly showed up, having run away from his new father's home. Dill had escaped a harsh situation and traveled back to Maycomb on his own, weary and dirty. Atticus welcomed him kindly and assured him he wouldn't be sent away. Life moved on with new challenges. Jem and I attended Calpurnia's church, first purchase, where we experienced a different world, one filled with warmth, music, and community support, especially for Tom Robinson's wife, Helen. The congregation welcomed us, despite some initial resistance, and I gained a deeper understanding of the people around me. Despite the growing complexities in our lives and the deepening troubles in Maycomb, Jem, Dill, and I clung to our friendship and the simple adventures that gave us joy. Yet, I couldn't help but wonder why Boo Radley never ran off. Maybe he had nowhere else to go. Chapter 15. After some negotiations and a letter from Dill's mother, it was decided Dill could stay with us, and for a week we enjoyed peace together. Then tension started. One evening, Mr. Hecate arrived with men from the county, discussing moving Tom Robinson to the Maycomb jail ahead of his trial. Atticus calmly engaged with them, despite the palpable threat. Jem and I watched from the windows, afraid yet admiring our father's courage. When strangers arrived later that night intent on harm, Atticus stood firm, refusing to back down. I even defended Jem when a man tried to handle him roughly. In the crowd was Mr. Cunningham, a man I tried to reach out by talking about his son and their shared past, which softened the atmosphere. Eventually, the men dispersed, and Atticus assured us all was calm. Later, Atticus sat outside the jail, reading while waiting. Mr. Underwood, the newspaper editor, stood guard above with a loaded shotgun. The night was long and filled with quiet tensions, but Atticus's steady presence was a shield against the danger that lurked. Chapter 16. That night, Jem quietly took me to his room to sleep, reassuring me that the ordeal would soon be over. The next morning was tense and filled with unease. Atticus faced Aunt Alexandra's disapproval, but remained steadfast, treating Calpurnia as a valued member of the family despite Auntie's concerns about appearances. Atticus explained to Jem the complex nature of people like Mr. Cunningham, who, though part of the threatening mob the night before, was fundamentally a good man with faults like anyone else. He taught us that mobs are made of individuals, which means they can be reasoned with, as we had witnessed. Throughout the day, the town's social undercurrents played out, from Miss Maudie's cheerful defiance of local superstitions to our first visit to the crowded courthouse, where Jem, Dill, and I struggled to find seats. Reverend Sykes kindly guided us to the coloured balcony, giving us a unique vantage point to witness the trial about to unfold. The courtroom was old and worn, with Judge Taylor presiding in a relaxed but commanding way over the proceedings about to begin. Chapter 17. During the trial, Mr. Hectate, the sheriff, testified about the night Mayella Ewell accused Tom Robinson of raping her. He described finding Mayella injured but without a doctor being called. Atticus questioned Mr. Tate carefully, highlighting details such as the injuries to Mayella's right eye and finger marks around her neck. Then Robert Ely Ewell took the stand. He's a poor, uneducated man from a disreputable family living near the town dump. He claimed to have seen Tom Robinson attacking Mayella. Atticus cross-examined him, pointing out inconsistencies and highlighting that Mayella's injuries were on the right side of her face, suggesting the attacker was left-handed. Since Mr. Ewell is left-handed, this supported the idea that he might be the one who inflicted the injuries. Jem and I were quietly observing, noticing that Atticus was carefully building a case to show Mr. Ewell's story might not be truthful. The courtroom was tense but calm, with Atticus calmly and methodically questioning witnesses, unfolding the truth bit by bit. Chapter 18. Mayella Ewell took the stand next. Though young and seemingly fragile, behind her appearance was a hard life marked by labor and poverty. She tearfully described the night Tom Robinson came to her house to help with chopping up an old dresser, but then she claimed he attacked and took advantage of her. Throughout her testimony, she displayed hostility, especially towards Atticus, fearing his questioning. Atticus carefully questioned her, revealing inconsistencies and probing the details of her accusation. He highlighted the injuries, the lack of immediate screams or calls for help, and suggested the possibility that her father, Bob Ewell, caused her injuries. The courtroom tension mounted as Mayella accused Tom, but her testimony seemed shaky. After Mayella's testimony, the courtroom took a brief recess. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation and unease, as all waited for the defense's final witness to be called. Chapter 19. Tom Robinson took the stand to testify. Despite his physical disability, a crippled left arm, he answered questions calmly and honestly. Tom described his good relationship with Mayella Ewell, visiting her home occasionally to help with chores, often unasked and unpaid, because he felt sorry for her. He recounted the evening in question, explaining that Mayella called him into her house to fix a door, and that he was startled when she embraced and kissed him, an act that led to her father, Bob Owl, angrily intervening. Tom denied all accusations of rape or harm, stating he resisted her advances and fled because he was scared. During cross-examination, the prosecutor attempted to sway the jury by highlighting Tom's past conviction and questioning his motives. Tom maintained his innocence throughout. Dill was visibly upset by the prosecutor's harsh treatment of Tom, though I tried to explain that this was part of the job. The testimony painted Tom as a decent, kind man caught in a dire situation, while the courtroom's atmosphere grew heavy with tension and emotion. Chapter 20. Atticus delivered a powerful closing argument to the jury, emphasizing the absence of medical evidence against Tom Robinson and highlighting the questionable testimonies of the Owls. He portrayed Mayella as a lonely, troubled young woman who broke a strict social code by interacting with a black man. Atticus argued that Tom Robinson, despite his disability and humble nature, was falsely accused to cover up Mayella's injuries, likely inflicted by her father, Bob Ewell. He challenged the jury to look beyond prejudice and fulfill their duty to deliver justice. His speech underscored the ideal of equality before the law and the importance of impartial jury. As Atticus finished, Calpurnia quietly came forward through the courtroom, a poignant moment amid the tension. The courtroom hung on every word, awaiting the jury's decision. Chapter 19. Tom Robinson took the stand and shared his testimony in a calm, straightforward manner. He explained his background, admitting a minor past conviction, and detailed his interactions with Mayella Ewell, who had frequently asked for his help with chores. On the day in question, Tom described being asked inside the Ewell property to assist, but was startled when Mayella unexpectedly embraced. On the day in question, Tom described being asked inside the Ewell property to assist. On the day in question, Tom described being asked inside the Ewell property to assist, but was startled when Mayella unexpectedly embraced and kissed him. He fled when her father, Bob Ewell, shouted a threat. Throughout his testimony, Tom maintained his innocence, stating he did not harm Mayella nor take advantage of her. Despite the prosecutor's attempts to undermine him by focusing on his past demeanor, Tom remained composed and sincere. The courtroom atmosphere grew heavy, especially as Dill showed visible distress over the harsh treatment Tom received during cross-examination. The testimony left a strong impression of Tom's decency and the injustice of the situation. Chapter 22. After Tom Robinson's conviction, Jem was devastated and voiced how wrong it felt. Atticus remained calm but wary, and Aunt Alexandra showed a rare softness. The next morning, the community expressed their support through food deliveries, reminding Atticus of the importance of his stand. Despite the hardship, Miss Maudie reassured Jem and me that there are people born to face unpleasant tasks, like Atticus. She believed that while Atticus might not win, his fight was a step forward for justice in Maycomb. Life went on with tensions simmering beneath the surface. Jem and Dill found humor in the situation, though Dill lamented the hardship and expressed a desire to be a clown to cope with the unfairness around them. However, danger loomed as news spread that Bob Ewell had threatened Atticus, making a dark turn in the unfolding event. Chapter 23. After Bob Ewell threatened Atticus, Jem and I were worried and tried various ways to protect him, but Atticus remained calm and showed us the importance of standing up for what's right. Jem grew into adolescence, and Aunt Alexandra tried to impose social expectations on us, especially about who we should associate with, disapproving of our friendship with Walter Cunningham due to his social status. Jem shared his growing understanding of the social divisions in Maycomb, categorizing people into groups and grappling with why such divisions exist despite shared humanity. We both realized that Boo Radley's reclusion might be a choice born from a desire to avoid the cruelty and prejudice in the outside world. This marked a deepening awareness of the injustices and complexities of the society we lived in. Chapter 24. Calpurnia served refreshments at Aunt Alexandra's missionary circle meeting, showcasing her grace and the acceptance she had earned despite earlier social tensions. The ladies discussed distant missions and their charitable efforts, while I felt out of place amidst their polished manners and gossip. Miss Maudie offered me quiet support, reminding me that despite appearances, there was warmth beneath the formality. The conversation revealed the complex social fabric of Maycomb, with undercurrents of judgment and genuine concern. Atticus bore the heavy burden of Tom Robinson's fate. When the news came that Tom had been killed while attempting to escape prison, Atticus and Calpurnia went to break the tragic news to Helen Robinson, underscoring the harsh reality of injustice. Aunt Alexandra expressed deep exhaustion from the ongoing struggles, while Miss Maudie reminded us of Atticus's noble role. Through it all, I learned about the hidden strength and compassion within those who face adversity, and the importance of dignity even when circumstances seem bleak. Chapter 25. September arrived, but the weather remained warm as Jen and I continued to sleep on the back porch. A roly-poly insect found its way inside, and I debated with Jem about whether to kill it. But Jem showed compassion, explaining that such creatures don't harm us. Dill had left for the Meridian, but promised to return after school. He and Jem had been spending time swimming, a skill Jem was teaching Dill. One day, Dill and Jem caught a ride with Atticus to visit Tom Robinson's family. There, they saw Helen Robinson, who appeared exhausted and worn. Atticus and Calpurnia comforted her, delivering the heartbreaking news that Tom had been shot while trying to escape prison. News of Tom's death spread quickly in Maycomb, though most townspeople viewed it as typical behavior from a black man. The Maycomb Tribune published an editorial condemning the senseless killing, likening it to the destruction of innocent songbirds. Despite Tom's death, Atticus's efforts to seek justice were recognized, but the harsh realities of racial prejudice remained evident. The chapter ends with Owls expressing no remorse, continuing the cycle of hate, while Jem warns me to keep silent about certain things to protect our father. Chapter 26. School had started, and Jem was in seventh grade while I was in third. Our daily routines changed, with Jem involved in football and often out late, though we only carried water for the team. The Radley place still seemed gloomy, but less terrifying to me. I often thought about Boo Radley, imagining friendly conversations, though Atticus warned me not to chase such fantasies. At school, during current events, Cecil Jacobs reported on Hitler's persecution of Jews, which Miss Gates discussed as being wrong and un-American. I struggled to reconcile the contradictions between Miss Gates's beliefs and the prejudice I witnessed daily in Maycomb. Jem and I talked about social divisions in Maycomb, recognizing that despite shared humanity, people were divided by family background and race. Jem thought Boo Radley stayed inside to avoid the cruelty of the outside world. This marked a growing awareness of complexities and injustices in our society. Chapter 27. By mid-October, life in Maycomb was settling back into routine, though Bob Ewell continued his pattern of trouble, including being fired for laziness. Judge Taylor faced mysterious disturbances at home, preparing himself cautiously. Helen Robinson, Tom's widow, faced harassment from the Owls, but received support from her employer, Mr. Link Deas, who protected her from Bob Ewell's threat. Aunt Alexandra expressed concern about Bob Ewell's grudges, but Atticus believed Ewell would eventually settle down. Meanwhile, Miss Maudie and the other Maycomb ladies continued their social activities, with undercurrents of judgment and hypocrisy revealed during missionary society meetings. The community continued to deal with the aftermath of the trial and Tom Robinson's death. As life marched on with traditions like Halloween, I was recruited to play a ham in a county pageant, while Jem distanced himself from childish events. Atticus, exhausted from the trial and its repercussions, showed signs of strain, but continued to support his family. Chapter 28. On Halloween night, Jem and I walked carefully through the dark schoolyard after the pageant. Suddenly, we were attacked by an unknown assailant. I was trapped in my bulky ham costume, while Jem was grabbed and injured. I managed to free myself enough to call for Jem, but he was unconscious and gravely hurt. Atticus and others helped carry Jem home, where Dr. Reynolds examined him and found a broken arm and a bump on his head. Though Jem was unconscious for a time, the doctor assured us he would recover. Mr. Hectate, the sheriff, arrived with the news that Bob Ewell had been found dead under a tree, stabbed with a kitchen knife. Chapter 29. Aunt Alexandra declined assistance as she confronted the shock of Bob Ewell's death. Atticus, usually composed and courteous, showed signs of inner turmoil, but remained seated. Mr. Hectate, the sheriff, shared that Ewell was found dead with a kitchen knife under his ribs. As I recounted the Halloween attack, detailing how Jem was hurt and how Bob Ewell pursued us, Mr. Tate examined Jem's ruined costume, noting its protective marks. Atticus and Mr. Tate reflected on Ewell's violent nature and acknowledged that some men must be stopped by force. I identified the man who had saved us as Boo Radley, the mysterious neighbor with pale hands and a timid smile, revealing a poignant moment of connection and understanding. Chapter 30. In Jem's room, Mr. Hectate revealed that Bob Ewell was found dead under the big oak tree, stabbed with a kitchen knife. Tate insisted that Jem did not kill Ewell. Instead, Ewell fell on his own knife during the struggle. This revelation deeply moved Atticus, who struggled to accept it, but understood the necessity of protecting Jem from further trouble. Tate explained that certain actions, like Jem's defense of me, were justified, and exposing the truth would unfairly harm Jem's reputation. He took responsibility for keeping the truth quiet, emphasizing justice and protection over legal technicalities. I admitted I understood this was like shooting a mockingbird, an innocent, harmed through no fault of their own. Atticus showed gratitude to Boo Radley, whose intervention saved his children, making a poignant conclusion to the night's events. Chapter 31. Boo Radley, pale and uncertain, quietly accompanied me to Jem's bedside, showing gentle curiosity and warmth. I led him to the porch, where Atticus and Mr. Tate sat, and they shared a moment of quiet understanding. Atticus and Mr. Tate discussed the events, with Mr. Tate asserting that Bob Ewell's death was self-inflicted during his attack on Jem and me. Despite Atticus's reluctance, Mr. Tate insisted on protecting Jem by keeping the truth quiet, emphasizing the importance of shielding Jem from the town's gossip and avoiding unnecessary harm to an innocent boy. I reflected on the kindness Boo Radley had shown over the years, the gifts he left, and ultimately saving our lives. Walking Boo home felt like a final poignant gesture of gratitude and understanding, marking the end of a significant chapter in our lives. As I returned, I felt the weight of experience and maturity beyond my years, ready to share my profound encounter with Jem the next day.